Hi, this is Cheryl McQueen, designer with Bello's Designs. My video tutorial today is an Easter card with hidden eggs for the bunnies to find. I think you'll have a good time working on this project. Let's get started by looking at the supplies that I will be using today. We're going to use a Lavinia Multifarious Smooth and Supreme cardstock. I have cut this to be 6.5 inches by 4.5 inches. For the frame around the card, I just used a piece of white cardstock, and that I cut to 6 3/4 inches by 4 3/4 inches. For our card base, we will use a piece of cardstock that has been cut down to 10 inches by 7 inches and then folded in half. The stamps that we're going to use today will be Lupin by Lavinia. This is LAV 774. We will use the Fairy Buttercups, LAV 375. We will use the Vine Branch, which is LAV 811. And then we're just going to use an Easter sentiment. I happen to have a pack that's got a whole bunch of different sentiments on it, and I will use the Happy Easter one. The colors that we're going to use today are Distress inks. I'll be using Broken China, Chipped Sapphire, Mustard Seed, Pine Needles, and Mowed Lawn. And then for a little bit of shadowing effect, we will use the black Soot. For our main inking stamp, we're going to use VersaFine Clair Nocturne. Today we will also be using the Lavinia masking sheets. What I will be doing is masking out our bunny rabbit so that we can do our background without getting the ink on him. And that's what the masking sheets look like. Also today we will be using a few different of the blending brushes and some blending daubers. To do the coloring, I'm going to be using some art markers. I'll have quite a few colors on hand that we'll use. I'm going to use a fine tip black ink pen. I will use an adhesive tape to put my card together. We'll also use a stamping platform. I have a sticky grid on my stamping platform so that I don't have to use magnets. We're also going to be using some masks for the sun. I've just got a circle mask that I put a little piece of tape on. It's kind of hard to see, to mask off for the sun. And then to create our backgrounds, we will be using a couple of hill masks. You can buy some of these on bellosdesigns.com, or you can cut your own. I happen to go ahead and cut my own for this one. You want to have one that you've got two matching edges. That way you can mask off both the bottom and the top at the different times that you'll need to do so. I also have one piece of paper that I have torn on jagged edges. I use that to create some clouds in the background. All right, let's get started working on our project. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to take our art card piece. This is the one that is cut to 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And we're going to take our Lupin stamp and stamp him on first. So let's grab our stamping platform. Put our piece down here. And then what we're going to want to do is just kind of position Lupin here down in the bottom right hand corner. Just somewhere right in here. Then we will take our VersaFine Clair Nocturne, pick up the stamp, and stamp him down. You'll want to push down really good to get a nice clean impression. I like the stamping platform because if I don't get as good of an impression as I would like, then I can always just restamp it. Alright, so let's take a look here. Oh yeah, that looks really nice. I'll go ahead and move this out of the way. So we don't need our ink pad for just a few minutes. Now, what you're going to want to do to create your mask is take a sheet of your Lavinia masking paper. And the things that's nice about these is that they have a plastic protection sheet. I'll show you that. So I don't know if you can see that I can separate this out. And this side is sticky, and then it's got this clear little protection sheet. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to stamp your Lupin again onto your masking sheet, and then you're going to cut this out. Now I have already cut one out for when I created this one, and I don't know if you can see, but I actually did not cut around these hairs. I just left them out of the cut piece. The reason being is that when you stamp, you're not going to notice the ink going over these little fine hairs. So when you cut it out, just go ahead and cut around the main part of your stamp there. So now what I'm going to do is remove this plastic protective sheet that I've got here, and I kept that so that I could put my Lupin back on there in case I wanted to use him again, which I did in this particular case. And then I'm just going to put that down over the top of the stamped image that I just did. Okay, and so now you can see that what I've done here is covered up the original stamping. So now we'll be able to go ahead and do our other masks to create our ground and our sky, and the ink won't get on top of Lupin, so that we can go back in later on and use our markers to color him in. So we're going to start out by doing the ground. So as I said, I used two pieces of that matched. I'm going to go and put this mask somewhere just right in here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and take this off of the stamping platform because we don't need this at the moment, and just work on it on my surface here. What we want to do, or you don't have to do this if you don't want to. I like to because when I'm doing my stenciling, I always seem to wiggle my paper around and get the stenciling off. So I'm going to take a little piece of tape here and just secure that down. Then I'm going to take my mask that I've got here, whoops, wrong way, because we're going to start with the ground. And I'm just going to put that right about there. So about 2/3, or 2/3 on the top half will be the sky, and the third on the bottom is going to be the ground. And then I'm just going to tape that down so it doesn't wiggle while I'm doing the blending with the colors. We're going to start out with our Mowed lawn, and I'm going to take a brush, find my one that's got my green on it. So this will be our base color. So what I'm going to do is just blend this over the entire bottom piece. Let me get that little piece of lint off of there. There we go. So I'll speed the film up so that you don't have to sit here and watch me do the whole thing, but just know that what I'm wanting to do is just put down a solid color of the green. Okay, so now we have got a good solid base of the mowed lawn. And now we want to go in and put in some of the hills that kind of show that the rabbit is sitting in a kind of a field area, as you can see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pine needles, and I'm going to take just a little dauber here, and I'm going to start out just at the top here and kind of pull this color down across the top edge of my mask there, just to kind of get a little bit of shadowing at the top. And then I'm going to take a mask and create some hills and little landscaping areas here for the rabbit to be sitting on. Oops. Go ahead and turn that this way. Okay, and so now I'm just going to do just a little bit of creation of hills just by blending down a little bit of this darker green. And I want to go ahead and do one that's just underneath his feet and where he's sitting. Just to kind of have him sitting a little bit on top of a hill. And you can decide how much of the darker green you would like to use. I sometimes like to have a little bit darker edges that kind of show a little more shadowing in the way that the grounding looks. All right. And then as we remove this, you can see that we've got a nice little base there. Now we're going to go ahead and move on and start working on the sky portion. Okay, so as you can see, I have removed the bottom mask, the mask here that we had on the top here, so that we could do our bottom part for the ground. And now we are going to work on doing the sky. First thing we need to do is be sure to put down our moon mask just somewhere over here, kind of on the right hand side. And then what we're going to do is we used this piece to mask off so that we could do the ground. Now we're going to take the matching piece like this, and we're going to now cover up this bottom part, and let's see if I can get that lined up. And that way our blue doesn't get into the ground part. I'm going to put a new piece of tape on the back of my card to hold it in place a little bit better. So let's get that lined up so that we can now start doing our blue sky. So I'm going to now take the broken china. And with the broken china, we're going to do basically the same thing that we did on the ground part, is that we're going to take this and just go over the entire surface to get our base down. The nice thing about the sky is that it has different shades of blue, so you don't have to worry about whether or not you get it smooth and one solid color, because the sky has varying shades of blue. So as we go along, it's okay if you have lighter parts and darker parts. Okay, so now we have got our base layer down of our broken china. So what we want to go do now is take our chipped sapphire. And with the chipped sapphire, what we want to do is just kind of add in just a little bit of darker sky, just to kind of give it a little bit of that contrast and reality. So all I'm going to do is just take this and just brush in a few darker places. I'm not going to be doing anything that covers the whole thing. It's just putting in a little bit of a darker color just to give the sky that little bit of more look of reality. If you like, once you get this tiny little bit of darker spots in there, if you feel like it stands out just a little bit too much, you can always go back in with your brush that you've got that has the broken china on it and just blend slightly. Don't add any new ink or anything. Just slightly blend, and what that does is that kind of softens it up and makes it blend and look more like it's a sky and not just some little bit of blotches of color added in there. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to do a tiny little bit of that. Now we can go ahead and remove this part of the mask, and we're going to go ahead and remove our sun mask. And then for the sun, we're just going to go ahead and take our mustard seed and just put in a little bit of the mustard seed on our sunspot there. And it's okay if it goes a little bit outside of the edge. That just kind of gives you a little bit of the aura. And also, you don't necessarily want it to be just solid yellow. You can kind of have darker spots and lighter spots. Again, this just gives a little bit of a more realistic look. So we'll just have some light spots and some dark spots on that. Okay, now let's go ahead and just add just a little bit of clouds into it. So that is where I'm going to take this piece of paper that I've just torn jaggedly, and we're going to create some clouds using the chipped sapphire again. I like to do this with a dauber. So what I'm going to do is just kind of lay this. Let's start out with some across the sun there. And I'm just going to take this dauber and gently flick down across the edge of my little jagged piece of paper. And I don't know how well you can kind of see that that just kind of gives you a nice little cloud effect going across the sun and the sky there. And let's just do a few more around the top area. And you don't have to have it going all the way across the entire piece of the card. Let's put a few down here, just to give that effect of the clouds floating. At the end, when you see the full card, when I take a picture and post that at the very end of the video, you should be able to get a much better view and see the clouds going across the sky like that. All right, so now we have got our base down for the sky and for the grounding. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my rabbit mask that we had. And I'm going to go ahead at this point in time and just put in a tiny little bit of the landscape drawing. So that you can kind of see on my card here how I've drawn in a little bit of grass. And that's what we're going to do here now. right, and now that we've got just a little bit of that grounding in, we're going to go ahead and do our stamping for the branch and for putting in our flowers. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring back the stamping platform. We can remove the tape that I had on the back to give it some stability, because we don't need that anymore. And we will put this down back onto our stamping platform. Now what I'm going to start out with doing is I'm going to take the vine branch, and we want this to go across our sun. Let's put that somewhere right in there. Then we will go back to our VersaFine Clair. And let's get our stamp inked up real well. And then we will stamp that down. Pressing down to make sure that we get a nice, good impression. There we go. And then what I would like to do is go ahead and take this same stamp and have it look like there is a branch kind of going off the top here, so that we can get a little more foliage here on the top part. We will ink that up again. And it looks like I got just a little bit of ink there. Sorry, I needed to grab something. I don't want to get that smeared onto our project. Okay. All right. And then we will go ahead and add just a tiny little bit more of the leaves coming down right there. That just gives us a nice full tree look. All right. So that's a way that you can use this to get a little bit more of a full tree look instead of just one little branch. So that makes the stamp very versatile. Okay, and I think what I want to do is go ahead and put my Happy Easter on, basically just so that I'll know how high up to bring my flowers. So let me get out our little Happy Easter stamp and line that up just kind of centered here. And we'll go ahead and stamp that. Sometimes my word stamps need to be stamped twice because they are such thin lines for the words. Let's see if we can't get a really nice impression without having to do a second stamping on that. Now we might go ahead and do one more, just to make it a little bit darker there. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and layer my flowers in front of the bunny, and kind of in different heights on, as you can kind of see, this is a little higher, this one's a little bit lower. So that's what we're going to do now. Grab that stamp, it's right here. And we'll start out, scoot this up just a little bit. There we go, so you can see the bottom part. And we will line that one up. And so now I'm going to go ahead and stamp the 3 different placements here of the flowers. Okay, so now we have got our basic stamping done. So we can go ahead and remove the card from the stamping platform and set that aside. And now we are ready to go ahead and draw in our Easter eggs. So what I'm going to do, and you can use a pencil if you don't feel comfortable using your pen first, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and put some Easter eggs, just hand draw an egg shape, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to draw the Easter egg shapes in little hidden places. And then I'm just going to add a few little stripes into them that we can then come in and color later. So we'll put one there, and we'll go ahead and put one over here in this grass. Let's see. Let's kind of put that one right here. And again, I'll just kind of put a few stripes on them. So now we've got one hidden here, and then we're going to go ahead and put one way up here on the tree branch, and that will be the one that Lupin has discovered. He's found that one hidden in the tree. And put our little stripes on there. All right, and so now we're going to get ready to go ahead and start doing the coloring. And I just have a whole bunch of markers. I've got blues and greens and pinks, and then I've got the colors that I'm going to do on Lupin. So I'm going to start out with, let's see, let's take this lighter warm gray kind of color that I've got here, and use that as the base color. And then I will go back in with a darker brown, and put in the little bit of shadowing, so that the nice thing about these stamps is that they show you kind of where the darker shadows are, so you can kind of just color along those edges. Then I will go up to the tree branch and do the same thing with it, color it in, and then we will color our Easter eggs. Okay, and so as you can see there, we have colored in all of the rabbit and the eggs and the Easter eggs. And so now we would like to just put a little bit of shadowing to give a grounding effect. So that's where I'm going to take the Distress Ink Black Soot, and I'm just going to add a little bit of shadowing right here underneath Lupin, so it doesn't look like he's floating into the sky. He's got this little bit of shadowing under him. Maybe a little bit of shadowing under this Easter egg. And this one on the ground. And then we just look to see if we need any other grass, and I think our grass looks really good. And so now we are actually ready to go ahead and put our card together. Okay, so putting our card together is just basically taking our frame piece, going to mount our art piece onto the frame piece, and then we're going to mount it onto our card base. I like to use the adhesive tape, but you can use a regular paper glue if you like, or whatever you have on hand. I like doing this, it's just very nice and quick. So we'll apply that to all of the edges. And then let's try and line that up as evenly as we can so that we've got a nice little frame there. Then we will do the same thing. We will take our card base and mount that onto the card base. Let me zoom that out a little bit so you can see it a little better. And there we go. There is our Happy Easter card with the hidden eggs. Now, a little footnote here to let you know, if you don't have markers or don't want to use the markers, go ahead and use color pencils, or you can do watercolors, or you can even use your ink to color in the color places on your card. So feel free to use whatever you have at hand to do this card. Thank you so much for watching my video tutorial today. This makes a really cute Easter card project, and I hope that you'll give it a try. Remember to check out more tutorials on the design team page at delbellosdesigns.com. Have a great day.